Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Mafex, the Amazing Spider-Man comic paint action figure, which is basically the exact same figure as the Spider-Man that we talked about so much previously. It won all kinds of awards on my lists. It does have some flaws, of course, but this is the exact same figure with a new paint job. And I know a lot of people are very interested in this because, as you can see, it's got the very stylized, comic-inspired paint job, and that's pretty cool. Most companies aren't able to pull this off effectively, so this is going to be kind of interesting. Mafex is not known for their quality control, so it's going to be very hard for them to do this, is what most people were thinking, and today we're going to address that. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Alrighty, now like I said, this guy is the same figure as before. Here's the original one. The only difference is the paint job. We're not going to go ahead and do the full review on this guy. We're not going to go over accessories and everything. It'll be a waste of your time. We don't need to milk that view duration. So this is the original one, standard colors. I've talked about it a ton. I'll put a link in the top corner up there so you can look at his review if you want to. That's how I keep him displayed, and he's a great looking figure. I love it personally. Objectively, there are definitely some flaws, but I really quite like that figure. And this one, like I said, same thing other than the paint. The only accessories I want to show you are his alternate head, just so that you're aware this head has like the exact same paint job as this one, so we don't have to adjust that one specifically. And this one basically looks the same as the original release, although he's very yellow. He is very, very yellow. Now my skin has a little bit of yellow to it. I'm not the most... I have a little bit of Greek in me, so there's a little bit of oliviness to my skin, but I'm mostly a pink person on that scale, and this guy's very, very yellow relative to my skin tone. You can see that there. Of course, my fingers are pinker than the rest. We're not going to get into the pinkness of my body. Anyway, you get the idea. He's a very yellow fellow. And so let's go ahead. Well, I guess first, just so that in case you guys aren't familiar, we'll do a quick scale comparison against Marvel Legends, which I just happened to grab this one. It had no particular purpose, but I guess since it's here, I'll let you know that I am selling that Gambit head currently up through the 15th of the month. If you're interested in getting a new Gambit head for your Marvel Legends Gambit, there you go. There's a link up there. All right, so this guy, the paint job, is it good? Well, I should probably tell you I absolutely love stylized paint jobs like this. In concept, they're fantastic. I think they're just wonderful things because they take something that looks like any other action figure and turns it into something that stands out completely from everything else. I love them when they're executed properly. This one is executed properly halfway. Okay, so the blue parts are just perfectly lovely. I think they're fantastic. I love that it's a flat paint job. In particular, the black parts are nice and flat. It's so well done. We'll zoom in here just so you can look at his ribs. Very, very nicely detailed. You see there's a few different shades of blue. There's even some pops of almost white. That's pretty obvious right here on the bicep. Almost no actual shading. There's no gradient. There's no blending. There's just a little bit of that here and there, but almost all color block type paint job, and that's very nicely done. I know color block's not the right word for those of you who are going to pick that out, but you get what I'm saying. It's nice hard lines, and it's very clean, and it's gorgeous. Let's look at his crotch, because why not? It's very, very nicely done. I love it. It's so well executed, and it wraps around the entire body, which you already saw a little bit, but it's very hard to pull this off. Let's look at his glutes. Good example right there. It's very hard to pull this off, and they absolutely freaking nailed it on the blue. And on the red right here even, it looks really good for the most part. So the key thing is the blue is almost all hard shade, like hard separate colors for the shading. I don't know why the Marvel thing is so noticeable there. That's very irritating. The original one doesn't have that, so does it? Let me look. No, it doesn't. That's really, really irritating. But right here anyway. This red looks pretty good because the red does have a lot of the squigglies on there to make it look like comic shading, and that's fine, but, and here's the thing, the red does not have this hard shading. Let's look at his chest. There isn't any of that hard shading. You just get the black. A little bit of the black, which looks gorgeous. I love that, like around the chest. That looks very cool. But there's no hard shading. There's no comic shading on the red. There's just sprays of white. So his chest is just shaded with white. You can see on here, there's like a spray of it, but it's mostly just in the black part, so it looks really bad on the shoulder. On the arm, it's just shaded grayish white. It loses all of that comic appeal on the red parts because they didn't maintain their consistency in how they were doing it. The face is another good example. There's no stylized shading except for one very severely noticeable dot on the top of his head. That's the only hard line work for the shading on the red. The rest of the face just has gray shading on it. It's not as noticeable as on the chest, but you get my idea. Let's look at the belt. It's very just airbrushed shading going right across there. And it doesn't look awful, don't get me wrong. Like, I personally really still like this figure, but this is a review and my personal feelings don't matter. What matters is the objective fact that the blue part is done exactly how it should be. The red part is done the exact opposite way. It doesn't match, it doesn't work. Let's look at the feet real quick. That's another good example. He just has these dark or light spots shaded on that don't look like anything. They don't match on the toes either, so that's even more ugly, but it's just, I don't know how they screwed it up like that. Like, the blue does have some shading. You can see it's lighter up here than down here, but it's super subtle and it matches with the hard shading that they did, the stylized shading. But the red is just totally out of whack. The back is not noticeable because it doesn't have it. They would have been better off just not using the gray at all. It's only a very tiny bit there, but this right here looks great, the back spider logo, because there's almost none of that white. It's just the black lines and then the blue is well done. That's great. And then you turn over here and you lose all of it. To an extent, I guess. You lose all of the illusion of the comic paneling, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So, the eyes are still really clean, by the way, nice and white with black outlines, but we definitely have that issue where they didn't continue their paint job all the way through. And that's why I wanted to make this review for you guys. I was even considering not doing this review because it's the same figure just with a new paint job, but I figured you guys should know how it actually turned out, especially if you didn't buy it the first time and you were waiting for this one, and now I can provide that information for you. The only other thing worth noting is obviously the joints themselves are not painted. Well, they are in some cases, and I'll get to that in just a second, but you can't really paint this plastic that they use for joints on figures, and so they didn't mostly, and that's fine for the red, and for the blue it's mostly okay, but you can see the red on the elbows is a lot brighter. Well, hopefully it shows up on camera, it may not, because they did the shading on the arm pieces but not on the elbow. So the red doesn't look great, but it's definitely okay. But the only thing that really bugs me is they did go through the effort of painting the knee there, and since it's not going to rub anywhere, it shouldn't scratch off, but the black on the knee is relatively glossy, and the knee is a different blue than any of the other blues. It may not be super obvious on camera, and it's not super obvious in person, but if you're going to bend him like this, okay, we'll get to that, I guess. Didn't know that was going to happen. If you get to bending the knee like this, the knee joint is definitely shiny blue, and it's a different blue. So that really bothers me, especially since Spider-Man's the kind of guy who's going to have bent knees. So that kind of sucks. As far as this popping off, well, that's definitely not okay. I hadn't had any issues with my other Spider-Man figure. Let's see if I can get it back on there, even. Here we go, Mafex. Ugh, okay. Well, it's not like it's super loose. I guess I maybe just pried it at the wrong angle and it made it come off. For the record, whether they cut out their ball pegs to have those, did you guys see how it's like hollowed out around on the ball pegs? You see that? If they do that to save money on plastic, it's unacceptable. If they do that because they think it's good engineering, it's even more unacceptable. It makes ball joints terrible. Don't freaking do it. Don't cut out chunks of your balls. That's the takeaway from today's video. It's never helpful. Don't do it. At least if it's for saving money, I get it. But if it's for engineering, then that's just bad engineering. Don't do it. And that's partly probably why he popped apart. But yeah, so there are definitely some issues as usual, but it's still a gorgeous figure, and I personally, like I said, I love it. I love it. I just wish they didn't screw up the red, and that's probably how most of you are going to be if you were looking to get this. Personally, I would say still get it, because the blue makes up for the lack of red being done properly, but objectively, that is definitely an issue which you will have to contend with to try to convince yourself that you like it. So be aware of that. I'm not going to give this guy a rating because, I mean, that's definitely wrong, but this is so right it would wash out anyway. It'll cancel out. So I'm just telling you my personal feelings. I've given you the information that you need by just showing it to you, and you can decide for yourself. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about this. Like I said, I absolutely love the blue. The red is totally underwhelming and disappointing, but it's still a net win for me because I think it looks really cool. Though, keep in mind, big price point. Just like Wolverine, let's not try to justify why we're spending the money. Let's try to have them justify why we should spend the money. That's how it should work, guys. These are not things we need to own. These are things we choose to buy with our extra money. We shouldn't be justifying it to ourselves. They should be justifying it to us. So let's leave it at that. Let me know in the comment section what you think, and we'll talk there. So thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed, you probably should. I have new videos up just about every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.